This is Can You Relate with Christine, but it's less can you relate and more can you relate with Christine. I want to age gracefully, not prematurely. Now, there's this misconception about how if you care about the way you look, it automatically means that you're vain. It's kind of like this absolute black or white kind of situation. But that's not fair. You can care about how you look without you being vain or without you being shallow or superficial. Because at the end of the day, you are living in your body. You need to feel comfortable in your own skin. You need to accept and love and appreciate what you are looking at, or actually what is looking back at you when you are looking in a mirror. So there's nothing wrong with caring about how you look. Now, there is a lot more to be said about the specific topic. There's a lot of different arguments. It's very nuanced, this conversation, because you could be getting a lot of work done. There's nothing wrong with wanting to enhance the way that you look, as long as you don't attach your sense of worth to the way that you look. Now, like I said, I want to age gracefully, not prematurely. Making sure that I'm feeding my body the proper, nutritious things that it needs to sustain its strength, to sustain its cellular regeneration, to just make sure that my body is getting what it needs to be able to function to the best of its capacity, to the best of its abilities, so that it can carry me on longer and in a more efficient way. So aging gracefully isn't necessarily about aging gracefully on the outside, it's aging gracefully on the inside too. It's not just the skincare, it's not just the foods that you're eating, it's movement. It's exercise. It doesn't have to be just going to the gym 3, 4, 5 times a week. It doesn't have to be just yoga. It doesn't have to be just running. Any form of movement, any form of exercise is a good form of movement, is a good form of exercise, because you're doing something, you're moving your body. With time, with age, the more seasoned you become in life, your body changes, your hormones change, and as such, you might develop certain intolerances that you didn't have 5, 6, 7 years ago. So even that, your needs change as your body grows and evolves. So you just have to be adaptable, you have to be flexible. Aging gracefully is also emotional grace. It's also processing and accepting and loving and validating and embracing your emotions. Because if you have a lot of emotional heaviness that you're carrying around, first of all, this is going to manifest physically through dis-ease, through discomfort, through ailments and such. And also, anything heavy that you're carrying emotionally might not let you sleep properly. So if you're not sleeping properly, your body's not going to be functioning properly. So it's not just one thing that you do to make sure that you are doing the right thing. It's a whole bunch of different things. It's a whole lot of wheels to be turning all at the same time. And you just need to make sure that you are tending to each one in a way that it needs to be tended to. You can't force it. You can't force yourself to get 8 hours of sleep every single night if you are not doing what your body needs for you to be able to get 8 hours of sleep every single night. For example, have your last meal 3 hours before bedtime. If you're gonna have dinner and then go to bed 30 minutes later, your body is not going to be getting any rest. You might sleep, you might be unconscious, but your body's not getting any restful sleep. So you're gonna wake up the next day, you're gonna be grumpy because you didn't sleep well, you are not going to be operating at full mental capacity, and that might lead to a whole bunch of other things that might not go according to plan. I digress. All of this to say that it's not just one thing for you to do, it's a bunch of different things, but it's not a lot of complicated or complex things. It's just your body knows what it needs. Your body has its own intelligence. You just need to get fuck out of the way and listen to your body. Just trust that your body knows what it needs. When it tells you what it needs, listen to it. This is so funny, perfect timing. I saw a quote the other day, something along the lines of, listen to your body when it's whispering before it screams and shuts down. I'm definitely butchering that quote, but I really hope that you get the point I'm trying to make with that statement. So aging gracefully, it's a whole bunch of things. It's exercise and movement. It's getting proper sleep. It's getting the proper foods into your body, skincare, emotional, mental health, and well-being. It's not just one thing, it's a bunch of different things, because all of these are the different pieces to the puzzle. And the bigger picture of the puzzle is your life. Really hope that made sense. Made sense in my head. That's a recurring theme in these episodes. I say something that makes perfect sense in my head, and I hope that I'm doing it justice in how I'm articulating it. So I really hope that you are understanding me when I'm trying to articulate these things that make sense in my head, but I'm not sure if they make sense when I actually say them out loud. Now, when it comes to looks, to the physical appearances of aging gracefully, I fully believe in do whatever you want as long as you feel happy, as long as you feel comfortable. Because you look good, you feel good. It's a very cliche statement, but it's true. And looking good is subjective. It's so funny. You put so much weight on the way that you look, and you let your insecurities make these decisions for you, which is why over the years I've gotten a little bit of nips and tucks left and right, because I made that decision coming from a place of insecurity. And recently I realized that I'm not very content with the results. So I spent so much time beating myself up, nitpicking at myself, feeling insecure, and I went and got some work done. And now I'm like, you know what? No, I liked how I looked before. So I booked a couple of appointments, got that shit dissolved. And it's actually a conversation that I had with the doctor who was dissolving the fillers that inspired this episode, because we were talking about how when you're younger, you're so focused on your insecurities and things that you perceive as imperfections and as flaws, and you so badly want to just fix them, and then it isn't. Sometimes you might love the results, to each their own. So I'm just talking about my experience. If you keep getting work done and you're happy with that, you do you. I hated it. It made me feel so much worse than I did before I got the fillers. And I was absolutely hating the way that I looked on camera. I was hating the way I looked in the mirror. Every time I would sit and record a podcast episode and I would go back and edit it, I would just really zoom in into that specific area and just go down a rabbit hole of self-deprecation and just like disgust and all of that shit, until I decided, why am I doing this to myself? Let me get that shit dissolved. It isn't until you're a bit more seasoned in life that you learn to really appreciate and accept your body, or to really feel comfortable in your own body. It's so funny that when you look back on different moments in your life, you actually realize it wasn't that big of a deal, but your mind was making it that big of a deal. And how with age you learn to appreciate your body and all that it's capable of doing. You learn to appreciate it a lot more. Even now, sitting here talking about this, I feel like this is going to be a very shallow, a very vain episode, because I don't know, man, I just feel like talking about looks is a very like shameful conversation, or it's very meaningless, you know? But at the end of the day, like, you live in this body, you want to feel good in this body. If you don't feel good in this body, if you don't feel good between you and yourself, you're not going to be a very nice person to be around. You're going to feel uncomfortable in your own skin, and this is going to be reflected in how you deal with the outside world. So you look good, you feel good, and looking good is subjective. As long as you're not overdoing it, as long as you're making sure that your decisions are not solely 100% driven out of insecurities, it's not I either do this, I either get this work done on myself, or I'm gonna hate the way that I look. I'm gonna loathe myself. I'm gonna convince myself that I'm disgusting. That is not a good enough reason for you to get work done. If you're gonna get work done, be like, oh, okay, you know what? I'm fine without it, but I would like to have like a little touch up on my appearance. For me, I've learned that that is an acceptable way to gauge how much is too much, or to kind of like gauge how not to overdo it. Because now I look back on Christine 5 years ago and I look at her, I'm like, you really don't need to do that shit. But I wouldn't know to say that until after I've done that shit and I'm on the other side of it. That's what's so nuanced about this, about life. Sometimes you need to actually experience the thing for you to get the wisdom out of it, to look back on yourself and be like, you never needed that. When you have a friend or a family member tell you that, it's like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know anything about my life. You don't know anything about me. And then you do the thing and then you come back to them and be like, you were right. But I needed to learn it my way. I needed to experience it. I needed to have my own proof of this truth. I needed for this lesson to be my truth, not your truth. You really never know how life is going to go. You really never know how you are going to change, how the way you see things, the way you see yourself is going to change. One thing that hasn't changed is in my early to mid 20s, I would say I want to be a trophy wife. So that's not the reason I exercise. That's not the reason I take care of myself. Hell no. But this is definitely an outcome that I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't mind that. I mean, I exercise because I feel strong, because I feel good. It gives me a lot of mental clarity. I sleep well, I eat better. I'm just a happier person between me and myself. I'm a happier person with the people and the world around me. And as a result of exercising, one of the consequences is that I look good. Now, it would be shameful for that to go to waste, right? Right. That is one thing that has not changed over the years. So aging gracefully, not prematurely, is not just about physical appearances. Whether you choose to get work done, taking care of your body, what you feed your body, how you treat your body, how you're active, how you rest. It's about your emotional and mental health and well-being. It's a holistic, W-H-O-L-E, holistic approach to aging gracefully, not prematurely. I don't think there's anything wrong with getting work done. There's definitely a lot to be said about the way you view yourself, your insecurities, being accepting of yourself, feeling comfortable in your own skin. This is definitely a deeper and more nuanced conversation, but it's one that I felt the need to have with myself today because I feel like there's a lot of judgment. Like I can have this conversation with some close friends, but for whatever reason, if I'm gonna talk about something like this with acquaintances or strangers, I feel like I'm gonna be judged. And because I feel like I'm gonna be judged, I'm leaning into it. Like I said on my very first episode, if I'm scared of something, then fuck it, I'm gonna do it scared. So yes, again, for the 100th time, I wanna age gracefully and not prematurely. Do whatever you need to get that boost of confidence, as long as you're not harming anyone in the process, and as long as you're not harming yourself in the process. Now, before I ramble on any longer, thank you for tuning in, and that is it for today. See you next time.